surgery. It's done without consent, and it has a life-changing, appalling effect on people's lives. Parents who decide not to have genital mutilation on their children often cite having awareness made of such difference. In 2019, I went to a conference in Zagreb, organised, where I met parents of intersex children. This is the picture here of us. Almost all said the reason that they didn't get surgery on their babies was that they were aware. They may have known someone in their families or friends who had surgery and was dealing with the awful, awful after effects. This really is not good enough that the HSE is not providing the information so that parents can make a decision. Mothers who are just after giving birth are at one of the most vulnerable times in their lives to have to make this decision, which is long-term consequences. Children expect those who have a duty of care will put their rights forward and work in their best interests. This does not happen to children who suffer from genital mutilation, or I would argue for any intersex child at present. At present, intersex people are invisible. We are 1.7% of the population, and yet many people will tell you they don't know anyone with an intersex condition. This is clearly not the case. This is how great a difficulty the stigma about having an intersex condition is. Experiences of shame, secrecy, and stigma varies, but is hugely impacted by lack of information. Many intersex people are not given any information about their own bodies and medical conditions. Often they're unaware of their medical histories, and this is hidden from them. The HSE really needs to do an awareness campaign. It needs to be done from the perspective of intersex adults. It is very important that the voices of intersex adults are heard throughout, as we are the ones with the lived experience. It needs to be done from the viewpoint of intersex conditions being a natural variation. Ireland is a multicultural country. People in Ireland who have intersex conditions may come from different regions originally and have different religions, not have English as their first language. Lived experience, individual and communal, is associated with intersectionality, culture, ethnicity, and language. This has a huge impact on their individual access to any information. Intersex is a cross-cultural issue, and this information must be provided in languages other than English. There's a huge diversity in intersex people. Class is also an important issue, as it's about access to resources and access to support services. The Catholic Church still has a very strong impact on medical services in Ireland. As a public patient, you have much less choice. You may have a GP who has no knowledge of intersex. You don't have a choice of which hospital you attend. You don't have a choice as a medical card patient to even change your doctor, as many doctors are not in a position to take any more medical card patients. We are all aware of the current issues of the Catholic Church role in maternity hospitals. This is a huge issue for babies that are born with intersex conditions. The use of language is very important in the dissemination of information. Some people use the word disorders of sexual development. We, the intersex community, know we don't have a disorder. Intersex conditions are simply a naturally occurring variation. The word intersex is chosen by the intersex community to best describe our lived experiences. Education. Intersex people should be thought about in schools. Although there are changes in the Irish curriculum, intersex will now be mentioned, but not thought about in detail. This needs to change. Currently in Ireland, 96% of state-funded primary schools are run by religious organisations, and of that, 93% are Catholic. The principles of social justice, equity and inclusion underpinning quality education require access to anti-discriminatory information and policies. And that's from Zavras Orr in 2021. We need top-down pressure to bring in changes to the education system. It's very important for intersex people to see that change is happening. It is important to look critically on where the theories around sexual development come from and challenge this discourse. Many intersex teenagers suffer badly. Most intersex children are bullied at school. They're made to feel less than everyone else. For many intersex children, communal changing rooms are a nightmare. Many intersex children develop secondary characteristics at puberty and realise that their bodies are different to their peers, but they're given no education about this. There should be more discussion on intersex autonomy when sex education is being taught at school. In sex education from primary school, this is very important, and it needs to be taught, and it also needs to be taught at the widest possible viewpoint. For many young people, there's no space in their school to ask questions about their development. And there's certainly no space to ask questions about an intersex child's sexual development. 93% of our schools are still have the ethos of the Catholic Church. Also incredibly important that parents of intersex children can look at intersex adults as role models. Because at present, there's very, very few role models for intersex children. Shout Out, an organisation, do provide education. They're a registered charity committed to improving lives for LGBTQIA people by sharing personal stories and educating school students, parents and guardians, teachers, youth works and places. Some speakers who are intersex can go into the schools and speak about their personal experiences of having intersex conditions. This is incredibly important. And I think it needs to be done a lot more. Because I think that one of the things that would actually help a child so much would be to see somebody who they can take as a role model, who can actually inform them that this is okay. This is okay, and you're okay. And to break down that feeling of stigma and self-rejection that's actually they're in many ways indoctrinated into through attending a Catholic school. The emphasis on personal autonomy and personal informed consent is what the intersex rights community is working towards for all children. The issue is not just about babies with variations in sexual characteristics, it's about us learning about diversity in sexual characteristics. The reach of education is impactful. We can't unfortunately change the past. But when we're educating, we're teaching the future parents, nurses, allied health professionals, psychologists, counsellors, lawyers, and citizens. We're actually helping through education to inform the next generation that things will change if we can ensure that the schools have a different ideology and ethos on these issues. Many intersex activists make videos as a way of bringing knowledge and wisdom. Many of these are up on YouTube. It is such a pity that the medical profession often do not listen to the voices of intersex people. A lot of effort is being made to educate from the community outwards, but we really need the so-called experts to take this on board. Thank you to our allies that have looked at the information that's available from our community. There's a lot of information available. It is difficult and can be painful to educate. It's not always easy to stand up and talk about your own personal experiences and something that's so close to your heart. But it is important. And it's important that people look at information produced by organizations such as intersex human rights organizations. Now, this is one here, OII. Now, they have one actually, there is one going at the moment. They have one for 2022, and that'll be at the end of September. And it's excellent because it is taken from the point of view of an intersex activists, people who have intersex conditions, not being spoken down to by medical so-called experts. Awareness has grown in the wider queer community. The progress flag is an example of this. And it's great now that the intersex flag is now part of the progress flag. The intersex flag was designed by Morgan Carpenter, a well-known intersex activist from Australia. And he designed it that the circle is whole. And this represents the bodily integrity of all intersex people. We are whole. We don't need medical interventions. We don't need genital mutilation. But group support is such essential because for many people, they may not be aware that they know somebody else with an intersex condition. And it's incredibly important to be able to have support, to be able to talk about the issues that are affecting you, and to be able to be in a safe environment. And that's one of the reasons that we set up Intersex Ireland. And it's the only intersex group that I'm aware of in Ireland. And it gives people the opportunity to come along and chat and meet people who actually are dealing with similar issues. In many countries, they have Intersex Awareness Day. And on the 8th of November, for a number of consecutive years, in Ireland, they actually lit up public buildings purple. And that was to try and bring awareness to intersex people. It's an internationally observed day, and it's designed to highlight human rights issues faced by intersex people. It's an international day of grassroots action to end shame, secrecy, and unwanted genital cosmetic surgeries on intersex children. The day also provides an opportunity for reflection and political action. Between October the 26th and November the 8th, intersex organisations bring attention to the challenges intersex individuals face, culminating in Intersex Day of Remembrance on November the 8th. And this is the birthday of Herculine Bourbon. And it's also known as Intersex Solidarity Day. These are some of the Irish buildings that, like the buildings were throughout the country, which were actually lit up purple. It was wonderful. It's off support available. It's often incredibly difficult for intersex people to get a therapist who's training in the issues that many intersex people face. And the issues we've spoken about today show that in a lot of times, people with intersex conditions do need to be able to have psychological support. This is incredibly important, as the issues can be psychologically devastating that they're dealing with. In the past, there was also difficulty in contacting helplines, as many were not aware of these issues. I'm actually on the committee for Switchboard, and we provide training to all our volunteers on intersex issues. And Friday is a dedicated night for people who are intersex who can phone up, and you will have somebody who's had quite extensive training on the from intersex people. I think that's the most important thing, as well as the training is provided by intersex people. Because too often in the past, people were medically trained and just saw it as a problem and a disorder, and it's not. It's just a naturally occurring variation. Thank you so much for listening.
Hi, thank you all so much. You all spoke so well and brought something unique to the conversation. So yeah, I want to say thank you so much from Galway Community Pride. I'm so grateful to have you all here. So yeah, we can start wrapping up. Is there anything else you kind of want to say to anyone? Is there any other points you want to bring up?
I'd like to say thank you for having us, Leanne.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you. I'm always so happy to have an intersex panel, because it's so important, and as an intersex person myself, it's something that I kind of see missing from Pride. But yeah, so yeah, no, I'm so grateful to have this, and I'm always learning more, and I'm sure there's people who are watching now and watching later who are learning more. So yeah, no, I'm so grateful, and thank you all so much. Yeah, perfect. Cool. Okay, take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done.
Yeah, well done, everybody. Thanks.